I'm sitting here in the evening sun with my windows open and traffic. And I was pondering on the May Mindsight, the topic that I had picked out. And it was Magnificent Mind. And I had put some bullet points down. And I was like, this is going to be pretty interesting. So I'd been studying it and reading certain articles, and then that kind of led me to a place of let's meld spirituality and the brain. And if you want an interesting topic to dive into, it's that. Studies have shown some miraculous shit happens in the brain when people are in a spiritual mindset or are doing something for their spirituality, like meditation. And so I kind of dove out into some articles and, like mind mapped my way through all the articles. And for this topic, well, what I gathered wasn't like notes. It was more ponderings, feelings, not something that I could just jot down in a notebook. Not that I didn't, but it was more that I just sat and thought about what I read. More so than I read something, took a note, like I like to do. That's what I kind of like, how I like to study. I mean, there's lots of thinking involved, yes, but sitting with their thoughts on a specific topic, like you read a sentence or two or a paragraph and just sit with that knowledge for a second before you do anything with the knowledge. It's only after the fact I've gone back, I will go back and read what my notes say. And sometimes it's pretty interesting to read up on what I've written. And I can't exactly pinpoint how that article made me feel because I'm no longer reading the article. So I chose, since it's Magnificent Mind, I chose to take these bullet points and the things that I have written down and let's sit and ponder them for a while. We're not going off notes here. I'm gonna say something from a bullet point in my journal, and then I'll kind of ponder through each thing. And it's the 5th month. We're almost halfway through Mindsight. I'm so proud of myself for keeping up with it. I love coming on and doing certain things like this with you guys. I do a lot of studying, teaching on the channel, I guess you could say. I dive into some topics that I hope make you think, right? So I'm going to make you think some more. And this might not be very long because I really want to sit with the things more so than I want to talk about the things. So, the first thing I have written down is that activating the nucleus accumbens, which is the region of the brain that processes rewards. And that is activated when someone is having a spiritual experience. Think evocation. So if someone's having a spiritual experience, and that, I guess that could be an all-encompassing thing, like any type of spiritual experience that you may have. Like ritual, when you do ritual at me, Eucharistic rituals, or praying, meditating, yoga, maybe. I mean, that is a spiritual experience. Studying for spirituality. Anyway, all those things are spiritual experiences, right? So whatever your spiritual experiences are, it activates that nucleus accumbens in your brain that is responsible for processing rewards. And I thought, okay, well, what does that mean? I mean, like, really far down the intelligence ladder. What does that mean? And I thought, okay, well, if I was having a spiritual experience and I was actually having those spiritual feelings, like almost otherworldliness, or I'm on the astral. Ooh, that's a good one. If I'm on the astral, during those experiences, will I have feelings like I had just gotten a trophy? Are they the same thing? Because, like, rewards don't have to just be a trophy. It could be someone saying, you did a good job, right? That fires that sensor off. That's that part of your brain. So if it activates that, then during these, is it during or after these experiences that you feel some sort of reward? Like, I know that my mom used to say that when she prayed, she would have faith that it was heard. And I think that's kind of what it means. Like, right after you're putting all your faith into that experience, all your knowledge that you have into that experience. And then, so you're putting forth the intention and the work in these, and then actually have the experience. Then of course there should be some reward at the other end of it, right? And I don't think that it's one religion either, one spiritual practice. Like I said, Eucharist rituals. After you get the blood of Christ and the body of Christ, I feel like that's an experience. And then afterwards, you really feel like you're embodying Jesus. Right? So that in and of itself could be a reward. Or could it also be the fact that after you say Hail Marys, like in Catholicism, like you've done a sin, and then to be forgiven, right, you have to confess them, and ultimately to get fully forgiven, you have to say so many Hail Marys, whatever, right? I'm not a Catholic. I think that's how it goes. So if that's how it goes, then after you do that, there's like a sense of not only reward, but relief. And I think that's kind of rewarding too, like, or a reward. Like, say I put forth work in gymnastics, okay? And I've worked for months, and then finally the recital comes. Or, well, I'm talking dance now. Finally the competition happens, right? And whether or not I do good or bad, if someone were to say, someone that, I feel like it has to be someone to be a validated feeling, okay? Now, because your mama's going to be your biggest fan no matter how bad you do, right? But for it to sink in that you did your best and that you really put your all in it this last couple months, it would have to be someone of authority, like your gym teacher or your gymnastics teacher or the coach, or even a fellow gymnast who knows what you went through, right? So I feel like the validation needs to be there for it to be a truly rewarding feeling. Because I guess that's how I process things. Because I know deep in my heart and deep in my body, no matter how hard I work, my mom and my sister, they're going to say, oh, you did so good, I'm so proud of you, and those endorphins are firing off too. But it's more of a maternal feeling, that connection, that relationship connection, that more so than you're actually getting the reward. So I feel like maybe reward and validation can go hand in hand, maybe. But there's another portion of the brain that's getting activated here during a spiritual experience, and that's the medial prefrontal cortex, which is judgment and moral reasoning. So not only are you getting validated and then rewarded somehow, verbally, right, or with material things, I don't know, or just having that sense of relief. I feel like validation, reward, that sense of release or relief that you get after you've accomplished something, whatever it is in your life, if you have set a goal, the relief at the other end of that, once you have achieved the goal, is rewarding. So maybe that is activating that part because we're human, right? Maybe. But then when I think about the other place in the brain, okay, the medial prefrontal cortex, that's judgment and moral reasoning. So it's like, okay, when I'm in a state of, let's say I'm meditating, or I'm doing yoga, right? Or I'm doing a ritual, okay? Or I'm trying to commune with a spirit or a deity. Whatever my experience is, okay? It's going to be different. Everybody's different. Literally, even in the same religion, your definition of divine or God is going to be different. So, if that's the case, then along with this sense of reward and relief, so you're sitting here, you're putting forth the work and the intention to accomplish a goal or to accomplish something. You're getting the reward, getting the relief possibly during and after. But then you are you not judging and there are no moral reasonings happening? Or is it the opposite? When you're in those states of experience, are you putting forth all your judgments and all your moral reasons, your values? You're putting them all on the table, almost like a sacrifice. So, these are my moral values. Wherever my spiritual experience is going to go, it has to stay within these limits. That's pretty powerful to stick to your code, okay? That's important. Is that what's happening? Like I said, or when you're in a spiritual experience, is it almost like those parts of your brain are shut off, therefore activated, and then you just lose yourself during those experiences? Or like I said, is the complete opposite? You're plugging them down and saying, this is how I judge people I know, people I don't know, blah, 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 blah. This is how I judge you. This is who you are to me. Okay, this deity. This is what this ritual will do for me. That's a judgment. And then here are my values. Right? Say I just put a streak of dark gray paint down. That's my moral compass. And you're putting them down before you even have this experience. Either way, those points in your brain are getting activated. And I thought that was so fascinating. To me, what strikes as interesting is I read one article about singing and speaking in tongues and how they do the exact same thing in the brain. Literally the same thing. The same stimulus are activated. And that happens in the thalamus, okay? Which is sensory information. Which is interesting. Sensory, okay? Your five senses. I thought, okay, when you're speaking in tongues, basically you're activating all five senses during that. Now, I'm not Pentecostal, okay? So I think I've heard this happen once in my life in my church. And it was basically like soul speech. He had no idea what he was saying. No one. To my knowledge, I don't think people decipher tongues. I think it is soul speech. You have a experience and that part of your brain is activated. But then now recollection is different. I think they still can remember, but they don't know what they say. And if that is activated, right? Let's say the thalamus is activated during speaking tongues. And the same as when we sing, what the hell does that mean? It means that it's not coming from normal speech patterns. What the part of the brain I'm using to speak right now is what's happening is my brain is mapping out all the words and all their definitions like a typewriter. And then it's plugging those words out. Okay? because of how I've mapped the brain already since development. That's how the brain works. So if I am not in normal speech, then how can I process a song? We don't. In the moment, okay? Think when the last time you sang in the shower or whatever. I sing all the time. I sing song, like answers to questions my kids tell me. I hum a lot. Not annoyingly so, but I sing whenever something pops into my head. I find it easier to get through mundane tasks if I'm humming or singing or something. Even it could be just like bits of different songs that I'm spouting out. It's not a whole song. But apparently in the brain, if I were to just break out in song right now, it cuts off normal speech, what I'm doing now. And my brain isn't worried. My brain does not care, let's just say, like it does now with the typewriter. Oh, that's the definition. That's the word she wants. Cluck, 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 cluck. There's a sentence. Right? That's kind of how I think the brain works. If that's not what's happening, then the brain does not give two shits what the song lyrics are. Now, I love what music in general does to us. It's a sensory thing. When I'm listening to certain vibrational music, classical music, or what have you, it activates sensors in other places than your brain. More places. And your heartbeat will mimic certain vibrational musics as well. And then I thought, okay, well, if I'm singing or humming, my brain literally shuts down normal speech and is not trying to decipher what it is I'm saying. It's like it knows that it's two separate things. So singing, speaking tongues, my brain's not deciphering the definitions, it's not deciphering whether or not that's a sentence. It knows just by the way the brain vibrates what is happening. But it's not worried about the words. I could say them all out of order, but the way the vibration is happening, the brain automatically knows, okay, well, we're not really speaking right now. We're doing something different. I think that that's fascinating. Let's talk about meditation for a minute. One article that I read said that during meditation, what happens in the brain happens in the parietal lobe. And what effectively it does is it blurs the line between you and every living thing out there. Literally in the parietal lobe, once you meditate, and I'm guessing you have to be like pretty, like you have to do it well for this to actually be achievable. If you do it well, or do it right, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, and everyone meditates different. But if you are good at meditating, and you're in meditation, in a meditative state, then what's effectively happening in the parietal lobe is blurring the lines between you and all living objects out there in the world. What is that doing? That's taken away my individuality for just however how long I'm meditating, and I'm achieving oneness with the entire universe. That is nuts. So, like those beautiful documentaries that you watch about monks, Tibetan, or Buddhist monks, and they know how to meditate for hours, right? And they're sitting there and they're really plugged out. Okay, they're plugged in to themselves and they're plugged out. During meditation, their brain, I don't know if this is the goal, okay? Because when I meditate, I have other goals in mind. I probably shouldn't. I should just let it go. But let's just say that's the goal. Obviously, it's the brain's goal to achieve oneness with every living creature. So, during meditation, I'm at peace with the fact that I am part of the macrocosm. And that during that state, I am not an individual. Just an individual. I am one with everything. Natural, man-made. I am one with it all. Trees, beetle, we're all the same in that meditative state. It's only when I wake up that I assume individuality again, and therefore live life. But when I thought about that, I said, God, it would take so long, you'd think, to finally get to a place that you accept those feelings. Because if the brain is doing it anyway, the blurring the lines so that you feel oneness, you have to actually accept that feeling as well. You have to have faith in it. So that makes it a spiritual experience, which activates the other parts of your brain. It's just mind-blowing, right? Now, mystical experiences. How that differs from spiritual experiences is like seeing ghosts or speaking to a spirit or a ghost or like mediumship or those like supernatural almost. Those types of experiences are mystical experiences according to, neurotheologians. And they share neural pathways with sexual arousal. So, spiritual experience, I'm putting forth my judgments and my moral values. And then, feeling of reward, validation, and relief. Right? But then, let's say, on the astral, I'm encountering all this, and I see a spirit guide, and I communicate with that. That's actually activating the part in my brain that gets fired off when I'm sexually aroused. That is a whole bunch happening in the brain when you're doing all that. And what makes me speaking to a spirit in the astral realm, why does that put forth sexual arousal feelings? Or not, it doesn't even probably have to go all the way to the feeling aspect of it. It could be like that's just what's happening in your brain. Same kind of neural pathway is what they're saying. So maybe the firing sensors are going down the pathways, the same pathways. You might not get fully aroused. It's just like that really good warm fire passion feeling that you get. I think that's what it's talking about. Like that lust for, like, I think it's a drive, like a passion that sits here in the soul. And that's kind of where I believe the neural pathways for sexual arousal would be as well. I don't know what the difference between a mystical and a spiritual experience would be. To know, well, if I'm sitting here and it's the afternoon and I'm on the astral, like let's just say I'm sitting here and meditating, and I'm going down the astral, I'm astral traveling, and I encounter some beings, and then I start communicating with a ghost. And then upon waking up, I feel relieved, rewarded, validated, and that all the people that I have encountered or whatever I have done on the astral, I know to be morally correct within myself. Okay? Again, that could be another relief that I'm not going against myself on the astral. Then would I wake up sexually aroused? Maybe. And I feel like maybe it's not so much sexual arousal that is supposed to happen. Like I said, it could just be the soul's way of telling you that you're lusting for this. This is one of your passions. Go for it, go for it, go for it, right? Same thing with sexual arousal. Right? It's probably sitting there like a ball of fire. And it's all in how you wield the fire, wield the passion. Your brain's not mapping it out for you. You got to decide. You know, what am I going to do with this passion now? What am I going to do with this drive? Do I pursue it? And you already know from having spiritual experiences before that you will. You're going to pursue it because of that feeling you got in your fire, passion pit of a soul, like that part of your soul. It's pretty interesting. With Mindsight 2020, I put forth an activity, or I tried to. And this was pretty complicated since I knew I just wanted to ponder some shit. You know, I just wanted to kind of ramble to you guys about this specific topic. But I think for this activity, it's going to be pretty simple. I've put it in a file for you to download below. It's basically a picture of a brain, okay, clip art. And on top are lines where I want you to consider all the spiritual experiences that you have had, big or small, or some that you want to incorporate, that you feel will give you the drive and the passion. It's just a journal prompt. Write it the fuck down. Think on your spirituality, whatever it is, because it's different for everyone. Write about your spiritual practice, and then write about your experiences that you've had. Mystical experiences, spiritual, whether or not you felt rewarded, validated, some sort of relief or release, like sexual arousal. And just jot down those that make you feel things. Big, like I said, big or small. I think that having that in a journal, okay, like I plugged stuff like that into my miscellaneous stuff, my miscellaneous composition notebooks, and died with it. It doesn't have to be today, but let's say you have a journal entry, you've plugged a couple of things in, your brain opening that up, opening the topic up, your brain will think on that for days to come. And then you might have a dream and that pops out something else. And you're like, oh, maybe, I should research yoga because it does, I think it'll do this for me, right? Put things to research down, put things to do. I need to try hot yoga, right? Or whatever. Things that you feel will bring up those types of feelings. And it helps to figure out what you may need because of what you already have done. To me, that's how I work. So, I hope that you enjoyed this Mindsight 2020. And come back next new moon for some more juicy topics. I say that a lot. I've been diving into some deep topics, y'all. So, leave me some love if you like this kind of stuff, and I will see you next time. Much love, people.